Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of ZB's Horsepower Talk. As always, I'm ZB Zack Brown. Well, it's the middle of the week, you know what that means. Another episode of Crew Chief Corner with Jeff Brown. As always, Crew Chief Corner is brought to you by Lickety Lou's All-Purpose Booyah Sauce. Go check them out at licketyloos.com. See what all they have to offer. Let's welcome in my dad, Jeff Brown, to week 4 of Crew Chief Corner. All right, Dad, another episode of Crew Chief Corner, week 4 already. So Talladega just wrapped up, and we're going to get into Dover, and actually got a bunch of dirt racing coming up too, and other series as well. Did you see any of the Talladega race?
I did watch the Talladega race, most part, boring till the end. Just for some information, you asked where the place to be last lap. I said third place because the first two were going to crash. Son of a gun, Kyle Busch running third place. First two crash, he pulls out the win. So
yeah, well, at least I had the organization right. Which one I picked.
Good job to Kyle Busch. It's I know he touched on a little bit, but he's actually getting some cheers now. So
and it was overwhelming amount of cheers this time. It's crazy.
Yeah,
but yeah, just typical Talladega from what I saw. A lot of crash fest and Xfinity, and I went over that. But it's hard to pass with those cars, the new cars and everything at Talladega and stuff and those things. So we're moving on. NASCAR's got a doubleheader this weekend at Dover, going to Dover, Delaware. It's Martin Truex Jr.'s home track. So tell us a little bit about this track. You got Miles the Monster right behind you.
That's right, Miles. Dover is a 1 mile. It's a high bank concrete oval. Traditional oval, just front stretch, back stretch, no quad oval or anything like that. Super fast, 20 to 24 degree turns, banking into turns, and 9. Actually, the straightaways are banked 9 degrees. They call it a self-cleaning track because if you get into a crash, even with the banking on the straightaways, it kind of pulls all the wreckage to the inside. It's one of those tracks that it actually, going into the corners, the cars actually go down and settle into the corner, so it's actually almost like lower when you get into the corner, and they drive up off coming out of the corner, so they actually get real light coming off the corner. Interesting track. It's for a 1 mile over. It's super fast. They definitely get around there quick.
Well, it's a concrete track, as you said, and how do concrete tracks race differently than the typical asphalt tracks?
The biggest difference on the concrete is that the track remains a lot more consistent as the race goes on. The temperature doesn't affect the concrete as much. The track doesn't really go through a major transformation like on like an asphalt track. That's the main difference. It definitely provides more grip in general than the asphalt tracks do.
How are the tires, and how is the conserving tires during a concrete race? I guess different from asphalt. It might be a little harder, I would imagine.
Yeah, the concrete's generally a little more abrasive. Like I said, it has more traction, so it's probably going to use the tires up a little more. It definitely can wear more, and as fast as that track is, and you're just on the gas all the time. Trying to save tires is probably going to be key throughout the race. If you can conserve your tires for a long run, the better off you're probably going to be.
Yeah, and I haven't seen how many sets the crews got allotted this week. I know obviously Xfinity is going to be a lot less, and Cup, they don't seem to ever have too many issues by running out. But Xfinity, that's a big talk every single week, is running out of tires and stuff like that. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on, I would think.
Yeah, well, the Xfinity they crash so much, so they get so many more cautions. The Cup teams aren't going to pit just on a willy nilly to get tires. Where the Xfinity, you get a caution after 10 laps, you're going to have to throw tires on the thing, and you know at some point you're either going to run out and have to put some scuffs back on at the end of the race, or try to save some. So that definitely makes it a little more strategy involved for sure.
Well, do you think, and you see a lot of these races come down to it, that fuel mileage might play a factor? I think it's 400 laps is the Cup race, especially. Do you think that could be playing a factor in these races this weekend?
Uh, I think tires are going to be more of an issue. I think you're going to probably need tires before you're going to need to run out, of fuel. Not to say you might not see some gambles towards the end of the race. If you're running, 10th or so, you're going to have to try to do something different than the other teams. You might see them stay out or try to grab two tires. I didn't think two tires would have worked at Martinsville, but they did. So, you know, anything goes there, and you're trying for that win, and hopefully you can hang on.
I don't think they have the reduced downforce package at Dover, which I think they probably should have, but I don't think it was on the list of the tracks they were doing because of just the higher speeds and everything. I'm not even sure if it's at Bristol in when they go on to the actual concrete and everything.
Yeah, that seems to
Um,
be more of the lower downforce
yeah,
tracks.
yeah, yeah,
And
and
you're,
then
at Dover, you want all the horsepower and everything you can get out of that thing. So
yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, you've seen Dover, and they when they raced Indy cars around there. I'm sure that's quite a sight to see, especially as fast as that track is.
yeah, they were just a blur going around there. You couldn't even tell who was who. All you see was the colors flying by.
Yeah. Well, it's that time for our NASCAR picks this weekend. Your pick did better than mine in the Cup race. I don't remember. I think both of us crashed in Xfinity. Who'd you pick for Xfinity last week?
Uh,
I can't remember.
Cole Custer.
I think he got caught up in a wreck too,
Yeah,
and Allgaier got caught up in a wreck. Um, and of course, Austin Dillon, I jinxed him. So yeah, sorry. And I thought Keselowski actually had a shot to win it there at the end. He was in a good position too. He came out of nowhere like he usually does. I mean, he knows how to race Talladega pretty well. But completely different racetrack here coming up. So, Xfinity, who you going with this weekend?
yeah. This one's tough. It's whoever's going to survive the crashes, and I think this guy is just due for a good finish. I'm going to go with Justin Allgaier this week.
And I think the veteran role can play a factor, especially in Xfinity. And you were talking about conserving tires, and
Yeah,
the veteran driver is going to be able to do that. I'm going to stick with Junior Motorsports as well, and somebody that's is due for a breakout for this season as well. Having some bad luck, string of bad luck. Josh Berry, with his late model experience and um, shorter track backgrounds, but he can still wheel a car really well. I think he can definitely contend. I think the Junior Motorsports cars will be pretty quick this weekend at Dover.
I think Josh Berry won there before, if I remember correctly.
Well, that even better. In the Cup Series, you've got a variety of drivers you can choose. If Jimmy Johnson was still racing in it, I'd be picking him because every single time they come here, he'd seem like he would win. And this is Truex's home track. Bunch of different organizations are starting to really roll right now. So, who are you picking for the Cup race?
Yep, I discussed this with your mom, and she said Jimmy Johnson. I said he doesn't race anymore. She's like, oh. So just for FYI, your mom's picking Kevin Harvick for the week. I'm going with the Toyota driver. It's not Martin Truex, but I think this guy is going to get his second win of the year. Tyler Reddick.
I'm going to go with someone that was out for 6 weeks for a snowboarding crash or snowboarding accident, whatever you want to call it. He was fast at Talladega. He ended with a decent finish at Martinsville. I think it just took him a couple races to kind of knock the rust off, and he's very fast here. Hendrick Motorsports is notorious for going really well at
Yeah,
Dover, so my pick is Chase Elliott this week.
yeah. my sort of, I don't know if you almost want to call him a dark horse or not, but Alex Bowman goes very well at Dover.
Yep. I think all the Hendricks will go pretty well here. So won't be shocked if someone from that camp will get out of there, and hopefully they can avoid any penalties because NASCAR is definitely going to uh, have the microscope on them from now on, since there's a couple penalties that have been had on them. Um, Keeping it on asphalt, moving over to IndyCar because it's a busy weekend again. Last weekend was a lot less racing, so everything picks back up this weekend. IndyCar at Barber Motorsports Park. Um, First of all, anything you know about this road course that they're going to?
I don't know that much about it. I don't know if I've actually really ever watched it. I want to sit down. I like the permanent road courses more so than the street races. They're just designed to handle all that stuff. They're usually wider grooves and everything. Usually a lot of transitions as far as height and everything. Definitely, that's one I want to try to remember when it's on. That's the biggest issue with IndyCar. You just never know exactly when they're on. I want to tune in and watch some of that for sure.
Well, you're talking about the cars, how they're designed for those tight turns and everything. How specifically are the Indy cars made to really go around those turns as compared to the stock cars and everything?
Well, first of all, they're lightweight. They're only 1,600 pounds. With extreme amounts of downforce with the wings and the way the whole chassis is designed, the whole chassis works itself like a wing. They can actually have up to 5,000 pounds of downforce. So in theory, they would be able to drive upside down and and be able to stick like that. And very low center of gravity. They're sitting a couple inches off the ground. That enables them. They can take the sharp turns. You know, very fast compared to a heavy car. They got great brakes. Lots of downforce, lots of power. They can get into the corner and get off super quick.
Well, everybody that tunes into IndyCar races, they don't really know about the tire situation, and I mean, I've watched it and not very familiar with different types of tires they have. I mean, NASCAR they have the one
Right.
set of tires they can change the air pressures or whatever, but there's reds versus blacks in the IndyCar series. So touch on that a little bit, what they're like.
Well, they they have what they call their primary, which is the black wall tire. It's a harder tire. It's going to last a lot longer. It's not going to be as fast as the red, or they call it the alternate tire. It's a much softer compound. You're going to be a lot faster, but it's also going to wear out a lot quicker. Uh, the teams at some point have to run at least one run. I don't know if there's a minimum amount of laps on, but they have to run both tires throughout the race at some point in time. You might see some start on the red tires, switch to the black. The other teams, they might start on the black tires and switch to red towards the end of the race, try to get some good lap time. So that's some of the strategy that goes in onto the IndyCar side of it, just with the tires themselves.
Um, with people having success on road courses and NASCAR and everybody what they're familiar with as road course ringers and road course specialists, and a lot of times they aren't very good on ovals. Is that the same for Indy cars, or will if you have success on road courses, you will probably have still success on ovals in that series?
Some teams and drivers are just better on one or the other ones. The top teams, like Penske's top drivers, Andretti, Ray Hall, those guys, and Chip Ganassi, those guys can win on anything. They're the top team. There's some of the other teams that maybe concentrate more on just like an IndyCar, or I mean Indy 500, the ovals like that. Like Jimmy Johnson was a prime example. He couldn't get out of his own way on a road course, but once he was on the oval, he was a decent car because he has just so much more comfortable on the oval. So the top teams are going to be good no matter where they go, but it doesn't necessarily transfer to one or the other.
Well, let's get into our picks for IndyCar then. I think it surprised us. I don't think I ever heard of the winner at Long Beach, Kyle Kirkwood. It was his first career win, so probably wouldn't hear of him. And we kind of had a little safe picks there of who we've heard of and who's had success in the past. So who are you going with at Barber Motorsports Park?
And this is just a pure shot in the dark. I have no reasoning behind it whatsoever. I'm going to pick Pato Award in the number 95 Arrow McLaren car. And
He's
just
had
for everybody, this is Nitro. He wants to say hi because he doesn't
Eh,
want to leave me alone here this evening. And we're
he
going to get
helped
into
out.
some Nitro here in a little bit.
Yeah, he helped out with the pick there, so that's fine.
Yeah. Yes,
Uh,
Pato Award.
yeah, so I was looking at him. He's had a really good year, and he's really good on road courses as well. I'm looking at someone who's had a lot of good runs already this year, and I believe he's a former Indy 500 winner, if I'm not mistaken. Uh, but I'm picking Alex Palou.
Cool.
I think he's won the Indy 500, but I'm not 100% on that. I'll have to do somebody can fact check me and let me know about that. Going into NHRA, four wide nationals at Charlotte. Just they finished a couple weeks ago at Las Vegas. I will be in attendance at the Friday one and get to see the Friday night fire in the air, as you may call it. It's really cool if no one's ever seen it. Just some you don't get to see that during the daytime. How much fire these cars will make. So, biggest difference that you've seen with the four wide in Charlotte versus Vegas?
Both tracks are pretty much the same. I think they basically emulated putting the four lanes in Vegas. They just made it the same as they did for Charlotte. The biggest difference is going to be the weather conditions. Las Vegas, talking very low humidity, probably 5-6% humidity. In Charlotte, it's going to be much higher, probably 50 or 60% humidity. So that's going to
Yep.
definitely going to change the tuning on the engines, to compensate for the air quality. Or they like to talk about the density altitude, which is the whole combination of altitude, temperature, humidity, and it'll give you what altitude it thinks you might be. So one track might say you're at 500 feet density altitude, and you get to Charlotte and you're at 3,000 feet density altitude. So there's quite a bit of difference in the tuning that needs to be done to compensate for the water in the air.
How's the racing and the qualifying working for the whole weekend? Because they start off, I believe, Friday night, and I don't think they do anything Saturdays anymore. I think Friday night is all the first set of things with these cars, and I think Saturday is some with the alcohol dragsters and everything. So, and obviously, so everybody knows the big events on Sunday. So, how's that all work?
Well, the qualifying is essentially the same. You got your 3 rounds. You're just trying to get the fastest time possible. We touched on a little bit especially when they're qualifying. You'll see the cars. They shallow stage as much as they can, so they actually get like a foot rolling distance before the time goes on, which actually gives you a faster time because you get 12 inches head start. I know it don't seem like a whole lot, but when you're going to 100 miles an hour and 60 feet, they're actually moving quite a bit in a foot. So that part of it's the same, other than you're going to have up to 2 more cars going down the track at the same time. Racing's a little different. You have one less round of racing, and you only have to get first or second in the first 2 rounds, and you make it to the finals. And then, of course, to win, you have to win overall. So it's definitely different. There's a little less, I guess, a little less maintenance that actually goes on the cars. You don't have to rebuild the engine one less time as the race goes on. So that helps a little bit.
And just your own personal preference, do you prefer the four wide over the two, or do you still like the traditional two?
I like the two. I started going drag racing, my sister took me when I was just a little kid, and it was always the two lanes, and I prefer the two. I actually think the four wide is neat. I think it should only be one time a year. I think twice, especially two times back to back. I don't know. It's like, okay, we did it.
Exactly.
I'm not that impressed with it's all right. Like I said, the Sunday show definitely goes a little bit quicker because you have half as many rounds of racing, so that's you can take that as a positive or a negative because instead of having you know 8 sets of cars go down the first round, you only have 4 sets of four, so it definitely changes that aspect of it a little bit.
Definitely for sure. So let's get into our picks for the drags this weekend. Who are you looking at for all? There's
I
4 series
got
there. The motorcycles are
are
racing, I
the
believe.
motorcycles are there this week, I believe.
Yep.
So for Top Fuel, this guy's been quiet this year, but I think you're going to see him turn around. I got Steve Torrance in Top Fuel. I got Robert Height for Funny Car, Pro Stock, Troy Coughlin Jr., and Pro Stock Motorcycle, Matt Smith.
Well, the Top Fuel, I'm going, and Top Fuel and the Funny Car, I'm going with a daughter father duo this weekend, and there's a whole grandstand named after him. For Top Fuel, I'm picking Brittany Force. I believe she's won there a few times. Picking John Force for the Funny Car. Pro stock I was looking at actually will go with Troy Coughlin Jr. as well. He was in the finals of the Vegas one, and I think that could definitely play in a factor of getting into putting him over the hump this time. And let's go with the wife of who you just picked, Angie Smith.
Okay.
Just kind of safe picks there for the motorcycle and the
Yeah.
whole lot about that series, but they've been around for a long time. I think that does it for the asphalt, concrete, non-dirt racing for this weekend.
Right.
Get a little dirty. Let's get into dirt racing. Kyle Larson's High Limit Series is making its second race, and they're racing at 34 Raceway on Tuesday night. Anything you know about this dirt track? It's in Iowa, I believe.
Yeah, it's in Iowa. 3/8 mile. It, on video, it looks like it's a fairly flat track. It's not a high bank by any means, and it's a traditional oval shaped where it's got equal length straightaways. It's not one of those 3/8 where you're sort of turning all the time. So it looks like it's a very smooth track. Looks like it's generally gets pretty slick. I don't think they run wing sprint cars there a whole lot. I think you see a lot of non-wing cars out there. It was a little hard to find some video of the wing cars, so it should be an interesting show out there.
Well, since it's in Iowa, are there any similarities with all the other Iowa tracks with the dirt as compared to Knoxville, or is each one a little unique as it is?
Yeah, it's definitely unique. Knoxville has that real dark
Hmm.
black clay, and this is just just a dark brown clay. It, the track surface looks very similar to the we got coming up on the Outlaws information. The tracks are between those three tracks are very similar in the appearance of we call it dirt. It's probably more like clay, but very similar, color and texture wise. It looks like Knoxville is sort of its own breed. You don't really see anything quite like Knoxville. That's for sure.
Yeah, and they had a little snow on it this weekend, so a little hard to race on a racetrack with
Yeah.
snow. There's 46 cars registered for this event, which is awesome. I think they're mid 50s, upper 50s last time, which is still really cool for a Tuesday night. It's insane. Do you expect it to get pretty slick by the feature? Because I believe it'll have a C main and a B main and A main.
Yeah, for sure. It's going to get slick, and they're also, I'm sure they're going to have some kind of a support division that's going to run, while they, got to give the sprint car team some time to get ready. So, there's going to be a lot of cars racing on there. I saw there really isn't any of the outlaw drivers coming to racing this time, so we definitely got some different names you don't normally see running. There's a lot of them I didn't recognize their names, so it'll be interesting to see how they are. They're probably local to that area somewhere. Which that means they might know that track real well. They might
Yep.
get around there real good.
Definitely make interesting racing for sure. Let's get our picks for high limit. I don't think we got them right last time. Larson got up to 5th. I can't remember who you picked for high limit a couple weeks ago, but
Yeah, I don't remember. It wasn't neither one of us picked Gio Selzy, that's for sure.
no. So who are you looking at this race Tuesday night?
But just watching it, it looks like it's one of those tracks that if you're going to be tight on the bottom, I think you're going to be good. But it looks like if you want to be fast, you better put it up against the wall. And this guy's been fast all year. He's had a little bit of trouble. I'm going to go with Rico Abreu this week.
That's the same logic I was using. Dang. Yeah, I'm
Hey,
going with
great
Rico
minds think
too.
alike, I guess.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm going with Rico too. The way I'm not changing it up now, but yeah, okay. So we're either going to succeed together or just crash and burn. So yeah, I mean,
This
Rico.
also could be a good night for Larson. He likes to put up on the fence as well. So
There's not too many racetracks I'm really worried that he would struggle at.
yeah.
But yeah, Rico's had a good year, and he's one of the fastest cars out there. So yeah, yeah, going with the big guy this weekend.
Yeah, I saw Ricky Stenhouse is going to be running too, so that's pretty cool.
That wouldn't surprise me if he mixes up a little bit too.
Yeah, he won the 360 shows at the short track at Talladega.
Well, he's definitely going to want to show out for his buddy Larson there for sure.
Absolutely.
We're getting into Outlaws. They're at the two Tri racetracks, Tri City on Friday and Tri
Yeah.
State on Saturday. Not the same area at all.
Yeah, one's in Illinois and one's in Indiana.
Yep, exactly. And anything you know about these two? Any similarities with the similar name?
uh no, they're actually they're different tracks. The Tri City, they call it a 3/8. Just from what I looked at, it looks like it's a big 3/8 track. I mean, it looks like the straightaways are pretty long. The corners are pretty sweeping. Uh, so calling that a 3/8, I think if it's 3/8, it's tight on the inside. It looks big. It's not a whole lot of banking. Looks like it's a nice smooth surface. Tri-state, they call that a 3/8. There's definitely more banking, but the corners are much tighter, and the straightaways are probably just as long. So it's definitely two different tracks you're going to be running, and from back to back. It looks like both tracks get pretty slick, which to me that actually usually makes the racing better. You can usually get a couple grooves going where you can run bottom and top.
Well, these teams are used to it, and they're two different racetracks, two different states. But do you think there's any type of exhaustion that comes out of these teams going to traveling different states and just one night they got to make it to a different state? Or at this point, I know they're probably used to it, but I guess kind of just go talk about that, touch on that, how that all really goes down as well.
Yeah, I'm sure they're used to it, but for anybody that wants to get into sprint car racing, you're probably going to travel, and that's kind of some of the stuff you're going to do. You're going to race Friday night, probably 10, 11 o'clock. You're going to have to go somewhere and wash the car, clean all the your equipment, the pit cart, tires. At the very least, load up, head to the track, probably get up real early, and then start prepping the car, tires for the race that night. If you had any kind of trouble the first night, then you got to fix whatever you have to do. Or, it's not uncommon, change an engine. A lot of the guys will. I don't know if they bring whole cars or not. A lot of times they'll have a a frame and maybe like the front axle or the rear end, and so you have to swap that stuff over if you got into a crash. It's a tough life. Those guys go from hotel parking lot to hotel parking lot and don't really get a whole lot of time just to relax and take it in. So sometimes it's like we talk. Sometimes in the middle of the season, a rainout's not the worst thing those guys can have. You just get a little downtime. Go out and just be normal people for a night. Go get some dinner and have a little fun.
Yeah, they probably used the last week as a little unwinding week with they canceled it really early. I think they canceled it like on Tuesday or something last week for Knoxville, as they were expecting just crazy wind
Yeah,
chills
and that's
everything.
good. That way, don't make those guys tow out there. So
Exactly.
it's the cost of fuel and everything else. That's respect on the track's part, because they know they're most likely no chance of racing. So just go ahead and cancel it early and let them get ready for the next race.
I just thought about this, and I'm just curious, where are most of the outlaw the outlaw drivers, the crews, where are they all based out of, all the teams? Because
Yeah, that's actually
most of the NASCAR's in Charlotte area.
that's a good question. I'm not sure where some of the teams are from. I'm going to say probably in the Indiana area. I mean, I
Yeah,
know the Kensers were from Indiana. You know, Tony's cars are out there. I think that's where their main shops are.
I think Casey's in.
Casey Kane's out of Mooresville, North Carolina.
Yeah,
Um, so that's his cars are based in there. So I guess
yeah,
your home place really isn't.
it's kind of all over. Yeah,
Yeah, I guess it's not really a big thing. Your home base is your rig.
yeah. I just thought about that. I was just like, I wonder where they're all from and everything. I know you got probably a few of them in California too. Like Rico, he's not an outlaw, but I know he's based out of California. Larson stuff's out of California as well.
Yeah. Larson stuff. They're definitely from. I'm not sure if Rico's car is. I believe his car is out of California as well.
Yeah. Well, it's been amazing racing so far in the Outlaws, especially. Are you expecting that again? Another great night of racing
Yeah, I
for
think
both
so.
nights.
Like you said, the racing's been great all year. Um, I like the shorter tracks. You got especially the tracks that are smooth and wide. You get a lot of you can get some passing going on. You get a heavy track where you get a cushion, it's a lot harder to pass. So these tracks with the smooth short tracks, and you get them going, and the drivers pulling the slide jobs, that makes it exciting. The fans love it. Uh, the cars are very much equal anymore. Used to have 2, 3 guys that could win an outlaw race. Now there's probably 10 or 12 any given night. So it's exciting, and it's as you can tell by our lack of getting the picks right, or it's tough. It's tough to pick who's going to win on any night, because these guys are all outstanding drivers.
And it also comes down to how well you can get by the lap cars too, and if they want to get out of the way too. That it's all about that as well. Well, you were mentioning picks, and we're gonna get back. We're gonna do it again. Um, Obviously, our picks did not win last week because nothing happened last week. Looking at these two short tracks that they're going to, the two flat tracks. Who are you looking at on both of these nights?
Well, if I keep picking the same guys, sooner or later I'm bound to get one right. So for see who's the first night? Tri City.
Mhm.
Brad Sweet for Tri City and Carson Macedo for Tri State.
I'm going to switch it up slightly. My look, I was looking at and you were mentioning with the bottom line and running a tight bottom, and someone that's been able to do that throughout the year is Carson Macedo. So looking at him at Tri City, and I'm pretty sure I picked him last week as well. And I'm sticking with the same two people, David Gravel for Tri State on Saturday.
And just for an FYI, we didn't have an official pick for Williams Grove, but if we did, mine was correct. I did pick
Yeah, yeah.
Brent Marks to
Congrats.
win Williams Grove.
Good job. I didn't pick one because I didn't want to jinx anything. And the thing with the Grove, and I mentioned it got the racing it kind of sucked in the beginning. There's no passing, but it started getting slicker and slicker. And I was saying if there's another series there, whether it was the 358, 305s or something, as well as the street stocks, because the street stocks spun more dang times than I could even count. So that didn't really do anything for the track, but it took about to lap 15 in the
Yeah, I
feature
was going to say
when the
about halfway, you could all of a sudden some of the cars were starting to get that bottom rolling.
yeah, it was it was fun to be there in person though. It's always a neat track, and I was saying if no one's ever been there, definitely check it out. It's one of the most historical dirt tracks there is, so it's definitely a lot of fun, good environment as well. Um, I think we touched on everything for this week, Dad. So
Yeah, I think we nailed it.
we'll see how everything plays out. It'll be an interesting weekend of racing and a lot more racing this weekend, and getting into the month of the big races coming up with
Yep, for sure.
Memorial Day weekend. It's almost a month long thing for IndyCar at Indianapolis, so a lot of interesting stuff coming up. So I think you
Yep,
some anything else?
I saw Larson was getting his seat fitted for an Indy car. He's going to do
Yep.
some testing next month out in Indy.
And it won't surprise me he turns some good laps too. So
Wouldn't shock me in the least.
nope. Well, if anybody's got anything to ask, any questions, any comments, post it down below. We'll try to get to it on the next week's segment. If you enjoyed this, like, subscribe for all of the exclusive content on the channel, and follow on all social media platforms and all podcast platforms. All right, Dad, till next week. I'll see you then.
All right, have a good night, Zach.